Okay, so here we are again. If you don't know who I am, my name is ParaDiddlePete, and I'm trying to get my Network Plus certification in order to study, in order to make. God dang it, stupid cats! You ruined my little intro. Okay. Let's try it again. Hey, I'm ParaDiddlePete. I'm trying to get my Network Plus certification because I'm trying to de-Wi-Fi my house. I'm trying to learn as much about networking as possible. I'm trying to build my own servers and do all this stuff. And I figured, hey, you know what? Might as well get certifications in the thing that I'm trying to do. So in order to get myself to study and to learn more about it, I'm streaming it, and I'm also a teacher. So I am going through this as if I'm a teacher trying to teach somebody else, when in reality I'm trying to teach myself. So if you like that stuff, if you like CompTIA, if you like tech stuff, if you like video game stuff, which I do a little bit of that stuff, please, by all means, like, subscribe, share, comment, do all that good stuff. We're gonna jump right into it right here. So I took a practice test yesterday, literally yesterday. I took it after work, so I'm not gonna lie, I was a little tired, although that is kind of an excuse for doing not as good as I was wanting. I was actually kind of expecting to get somewhere between a 65 and a 70. I wasn't expecting to ace it, but I was expecting to do a little bit better than what I had done. But you know, they say excuses are like assholes. Everyone has one, and they all stink. So there's no reason making excuses about anything like that. There's only to move forward. However, I am glad that I did make a 59 on it. As you can see, here are the topics that I did the best in, or that I did the best to the worst. 2, 4, 3, 5 performance-based questions. That's the PBQ. And then concept number 1. I'm not gonna lie, dude. Concept number 1, network concepts, is it's a big one. There's a lot. Even though there were more questions on the performance-based questions part, this one is like a third of all of the material. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through all of section 1. We might go through another section, but for the most part, we're going to go through all of it. First thing we're going to do is we're going to review the questions. Actually, I don't know what happens. If I hit review, refresh, does it just take me directly to it? It does. I don't know if it gets rid of it. So we're going to go ahead and we will review this, and then we will review the test. How about that? Okay. And everything should be working really well. Is the music's probably too loud. I'll knock it down a little bit. And let's rearrange this real quick. This is going to make my life a lot easier. There we go. Perfect. All right, let's do it.
An engineer troubleshoots a network connectivity issue that the server team reported. The engineer notices that the trunk port is down between 2 routers. After checking the fiber link on the router, the engineer moves the cable and notices that the link light comes on. The issue is most likely a part of what layer of the OSI model?
If you move the fiber cable, and then that means it's a physical thing, so it's layer 1.
Which of the following functions are performed by the OSI transport layer?
OSI transport layer. Reliability and delivery. No, that's the last layer. Data segmentation and simability. Construction data format between. I'm gonna say end-to-end flow control. Okay. There's not going to be a lot of unsure. It's going to be like basically we're going straight for it. You know what I mean? Okay.
Character encoding, data compression, and encryption. Decryption take place at which OSI layer?
Character encoding. I believe it's the session layer. If I remember correctly, layer 1 is physical, layer 2 is data link, layer 3 is network, layer 4 is transport, layer 5 is session, layer 6 is application, and then layer 7 is presentation. I think it's session. Nope. This is why I got a 59.
Which Open Systems Interconnection OSI layer assumes responsibility for managing network connections between applications?
That's the session layer.
Which of the following protocols reside at the application layer of the Open Systems Interconnection OSI model? Select 2.
HTTP and SMTP? Yeah. Pretty sure that has to deal with mail. But then again, anytime there's an M that's in an acronym, I'm like, I'm pretty sure that deals with email.
A network administrator is looking at an ARP table on a switch for connected devices. Which Open Systems Interconnection OSI layer are they looking at?
If they're looking at a switch, they're looking at the data link layer, layer 2. There are layer 3 switches, and they're literally called that. They're called layer 3 switches.
What is the role of an access control list ACL at layer 3 network layer of the OSI model?
What is the role? To filter network traffic and permit blocked packets based off the IP address. See, I know this, but I swear to you, when I was taking that practice test, it words it differently. I might need another source of practice questions. Okay. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 2 out of 7. Oh, dang it. It said 3. So I was right. So which of the following functions are performed by the OSI transport layer? Sorry, sometimes like I start going so fast in my head and then like my mouth can't keep up. Data segmentation and reassembly. To be fair, I did think that was not the transport layer, but that makes sense why it is. Let's read what it says.
The transport layer is responsible for breaking upper layer data into segments and allowing reliable communication through end-to-end flow control, error detection, and error correction. Message transmission through a medium is performed at the physical layer. Media access, logical topology, and device identification occur at the data link layer. Path identification and selection is a function of the network layer. Data formatting is performed at the presentation layer.
Okay.
Character encoding, data compression, and encryption. Decryption take place at which OSI layer?
Presentation layer.
Refresher.
Dang it, I hate when it does that.
In the presentation layer, the data from the application layer is extracted and manipulated as per the required format to transmit over the network. Translation, encryption, decryption, and compression are some of the functions at the presentation layer. Network applications implement the application layer. These applications produce data, which has to be transferred over the network.
Okay. Presentation layer is going to encrypt and decrypt. That makes sense.
Which OSI layer assumes responsibility for managing network connections between applications?
The session. Select 3.
Which of the following functions are performed by the OSI transport layer? Select 3.
So end-to-end flow, reliability, message delivery, and data segmentation.
Character encoding, data compression, and encryption. Decryption take place at which OSI layer?
Presentation layer. This is the same question.
Which of the following functions are performed by the OSI transport layer? Select 3.
Okay, let's go back to the practice test. It's hard to know. We're going to keep going through each one. And then we're going to review the practice test.
A managed service provider is looking to set up a home network for a client and needs to set up a device that can connect to the client's internet provider. What kind of box should the consumer install for the client?
A managed service provider is looking to set up a home network for a client and needs to set up a device that can connect to a client's internet provider. He needs a router. Yeah, because you don't go directly from the service provider directly to a switch. You go from the service provider to a router to a switch. All right, what we got?
A department in an organization asks a systems administrator to set up a small network for a test project that consists of 5 computers. The admin searches the storage closet for a spare device to make the connection. Considering the functionality of network connectivity devices, which of the following can satisfy the testing environment requirement?
We want to switch. We don't want to bridge. That's something where it literally as it sounds. We're trying to bridge a network from one area to another area. It's not really meant for multiple devices to connect. It's really meant to lengthen a network in general. Router can have switches on there, but a router really just does exactly as it says again. It routes the information. It's the post office, basically. The firewall, that has nothing to do with this. The switch is like the mailroom of your apartment. It's not as big as the actual United States post office or the one in your hometown.
An engineer upgrades an organization's network. Part of the upgrade focuses on the consolidation of devices. In particular, planning to replace routers and switches is on the agenda. When evaluating how network appliances operate, which device is a suitable replacement that performs the required functions?
A multi-layer switch. Multi-layer switch is like a router and a switch combined. It's actually what the majority of households use. People think that their router is a router, but it's really not. It's a switch, a modem, and a router, and also a DHCP server as well. Like, it's the amount of technology that is crammed into these little boxes that Xfinity and Frontier and everything give out is pretty insane. Future.
Which of the following systems provide an active response to network threats that match signature patterns?
I'm pretty sure it's this, but I don't remember what this is. So what we're going to do, we're going to ask my good friend here, Vince. This is my new AI. Got a new AI over here, boys. Using Llama 3. I know Llama 3 is kind of old, but we're still using it. Chatbot GPT wasn't working well. Oh, buddy. Honestly, I think it's a little bit faster. And it doesn't try to blackmail me, so like that's also like kind of a plus.
Threats that match known signature patterns. Simplified answer, IP's intrusion prevention system.
Oh.
Analogy, think of an IP as like a bouncer at a nightclub. The bouncer has a list of known troublemakers' signature patterns and actively checks everyone at the door. If someone matches the list, the bouncer takes action to prevent them from entering active response. In-depth explanation, an IPS is a network security system that actively monitors and analyzes network traffic for signs of intrusion. When an IPS detects a threat that matches a known signature pattern, it takes action to prevent or mitigate the attack. This can include blocking traffic, dropping packets, or alerting a security administrator. IPS systems use signature-based detection, which means they rely on a database of known attack patterns, signatures, to identify potential threats. By actively responding to threats, IPS systems can help prevent attacks from succeeding. Real-world example or scenario. A company's network is protected by an IPS system. The IPS has been configured to detect and block traffic that matches the signature pattern of a known malware strain. One day, a user accidentally downloads an infected file that attempts to communicate with a command and control server. The IPS detects the traffic and recognizes it as matching the malware signature. The IPS immediately blocks the traffic and alerts the security administrator, preventing the malware from spreading further.
Okay, cool. So we just learned something. Dope. So IPS, which is intrusion prevention system. Now, the real question is what is SCAD? What is this? Stands for Superior Control and Data Acquisition. It's a system used in institutions to mirror and control institutional processes, often over large geographical areas. Oh, okay. Control system adjustments, SCAD, operating terminal, alarm monitor. Okay, so SCAD is like this giant thing. Whoa, that's wild. Can you imagine being like, I'm pretty sure that like that's a fake photo, but can you imagine sitting in front of like 6 monitors with like all of this crap and then actually knowing what it means? That's so cool. That's so cool. Look at this. I don't know what this is, but that looks dope. What is SCAD, Superior Control Data Acquisition, explained? We're not going to read through all of this. I just want to look at the picture. Where'd it go? This. No, it wasn't that. I bet if I read all this, I would understand it way better. Huh. Interesting. Okay, but I just need to know what it is at the moment. I don't necessarily need to know how to do it. Let's continue.
A server technician is shopping for new storage for data on the business network. The storage requirement has risen over the last year, and the servers currently have limited space. Which of the following is an option for the technician to purchase to increase the available server storage on the local network?
A SAN. What does SAN stand for again? There's several things, but most commonly refers to as storage area network. That's it. Storage area network, and that's why SanDisk is named SanDisk, because it's a storage area network disk. So it's really sand. SanDisk is actually sand. Neat.
A network administrator needs to set up a circuit-level stateful inspection of traffic coming in and out of a specific segment of the network. What type of device should the network administrator use in this case?
That's so easy. Because everything else routes traffic. This is the only one that filters it.
A company uses multiple redundant paths on the internal network to reduce network latency. A firewall installed in the company's demilitarized zone screened subnet includes multiple network interfaces that can systematically route traffic to these internal paths, depending on bandwidth and other network policies. Considering the incoming internet traffic, what other purpose does this firewall serve as?
It's also serving as a load balancer. Now, it's not a load balancer, but it's also serving as a load balancer.
A network engineer just set up a secondary connection at all their remote locations. The secondary connection links each site to another site to prevent downtime in case the primary connection fails. What networking concept did the engineer utilize for the configuration?
A network engineer just set up a secondary connection at all their remote locations. Secondary connection links each site to each other. It's not site survey. That's when you actually go somewhere to like survey the area, to like actually physically look at it. I'm going to say multipathing. Okay, but that was a guess because I was like, there's no way it's state. There's no way it's load balance. Give me some analogies here. Careful, cat. I really like this AI. I like how it times itself. You can also like change stuff. It's also uncensored. We're not using the uncensored version. We're just using the most intelligent version. So I really, highly recommend. 10 out of 10. Especially for stuff like this. You know what I mean?
Here's the explanation in your preferred format. Restate the question. What networking concept did the engineer use to set up a secondary connection at remote locations to prevent downtime in case the primary connection fails? Simplified answer, multipathing. Analogy. Think of multipathing like having multiple roads to reach a destination. If one road is blocked, you can take an alternate route to still reach your destination. Similarly, in networking, multipathing provides multiple paths for data to travel between locations. ensuring that if one path fails, the data can still be transmitted through another path.
Okay, that makes
In-depth
sense.
explanation. Multipathing is a networking concept that involves setting up multiple paths for data to travel between locations. This can be done to improve network reliability, increase bandwidth, and reduce downtime. In the scenario described, the engineers set up a secondary connection at each remote location, linking each site to another site. This allows data to be transmitted through the secondary connection if the primary connection fails, ensuring that the network remains available. Multipathing
more
can
of
be
a mesh
implemented using various
topology.
techniques, including routing protocols, virtual private networks, VPNs, and network redundancy protocols. Real-world example or scenario, a retail company has multiple stores located in different parts of the city. Each store has a primary internet connection, but the company wants to ensure that if one connection fails, the stores can still communicate with each other and with the head office. The company sets up a secondary connection at each store, linking each store to another store using a VPN. This creates a multipath network, allowing data to be transmitted between stores and the head office even if one connection fails.
How VPNs actually work in the workplace still kind of eludes me. Like, I understand what it is and what it does, but I can't visualize it. And the reason I'm having a hard time visualizing it is because of how you can just buy a VPN on your phone. And that, like, it's the same, but it's not the same. I don't know why that's hard for me to wrap my brain around. But it makes sense because I do know what a VPN is.
A network consultant is reviewing header fields and is looking for evidence that packets are arriving at their destination. What is the name of the output ping that provides this information?
Time to live, right? Yeah.
A network administrator needs to provide remote workers access to internal messaging servers, but cannot configure internal service at the perimeter network. What can the network administrator deploy to listen for client requests from the internet and create the appropriate request to the internal messaging server?
Oh, this is a proxy. This is a proxy. And there's two different types of proxies. There's reverse proxy and forward proxy. The forward proxy is where, like, I'm the boss and I talk to my assistant or, like, the receptionist or my publicist. I talk to someone, a mediator, in order to get what I want out into the world. A reverse proxy is the opposite. Some schmuck on the street wants to come talk to me, and I'm the CEO. Well, everybody wants to talk to me because I'm the CEO. So I have a mediator, I have someone in between that stops them and then just relays the message. So it's all about where it's coming from and where it's going. It's all about where it's coming from and who's saying it. Okay. What can the network administrator deploy to listen for client requests of the internet and create appropriate requests for the internal thing? This is a reverse proxy because they're listening for clients and they are creating the appropriate requests. Yes. Look at me. I've learned.
What piece of network equipment allows network engineers to allow or deny traffic to specific locations within the network?
That's a NIC. That goes in your computer. That allows network engineers to allow or deny traffic to specific locations. My first instinct is firewall. I did think maybe it was a router because you can set up VLANs and subnets and things like that that won't talk to certain things, but I'm pretty sure it's a firewall. Yeah, that was a mislead.
A wireless router commonly mounted on an office ceiling is widely known as which of the following devices?
Access point. How did I get these wrong on the test? There's literally only one that I had to Google. Okay. Where are we at? We're at number 3, right?
A user goes to the website www.shopping.com, where a Bastion host reviews the request to verify the safety of the request. What is the company established to enable clients access to data on the private system without compromising the security of the internal network?
It has to be a demilitarized zone, which I also don't fully understand. Like, I understand what it is at a fundamental level, but in order to, like, understand it in a day-to-day sense, it still kind of eludes me. Elude. What a fun word, elude. Let's see what kind of analogy we can get with this. Look at it go. Look at my little llama 3.1 405 billion. That's how many characters it can process, I believe. Alright. Earlier it was just giving me the little number. Technically it has its own built-in listen to response, but you can't control how fast it is. So it reads really, really slow.
Here's the explanation in your preferred format. Restate the question. What has the company established to enable clients to access data on the private system without compromising the security of the internal network? Using a Bastion host to review requests to the website www.shopping.com. Simplified answer. Demilitarized zone, DMZ. Analogy, think of a DMZ like a neutral zone between two countries. Just as a neutral zone provides a safe area for negotiations and interactions between the two countries, a DMZ provides a safe area for interactions between the public internet and a private internal network. The Bastion host acts as a gatekeeper, reviewing requests and ensuring that only safe traffic is allowed to pass through. In-depth explanation, a demilitarized zone DMZ is a network segment that separates a public network, such as the internet, from a private internal network. It's used to provide an additional layer of security and protection for the internal network. In this scenario, the Bastion host is placed in the DMZ and reviews incoming requests to the website, www.shopping.com. The Bastion host acts as a proxy server, filtering and verifying the safety of incoming requests before allowing them to pass through to the internal network. This helps to prevent unauthorized access and malicious traffic from reaching the internal network. By using a DMZ, the company can provide access to data on the private system while minimizing the risk of compromising the security of the internal network. Real-world example or scenario, a company wants to provide public access to its website, but also needs to protect its internal network from unauthorized access. The company sets up a DMZ with a Bastion host that reviews incoming requests to the website. The Bastion host is configured to allow only HTTP and HTTPS traffic to pass through, and to block all other types of traffic. Okay. This ensures that only safe and authorized traffic is allowed to reach the internal network, while still providing access to the website for public users.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes total sense. Manu, you're about to roll off my desk, and then you're going to be very unhappy. All right, next.
Which of the following descriptions best describes a public cloud infrastructure?
Multi-tenant. I know because I've gotten this wrong multiple times. Multi-tenant means that because it's a public cloud service, that there's tons of people who are there. Now, you would think that it's third-party secure because it's a public thing. So that means it's probably a third-party thing. But that's not it. Okay? Shared cost. I have Google. Whoa! And there goes my cat. He just fell off the thing. Shared cost. I have Google Drive, and I pay for Google Drive. Like, no one else is sharing the cost of Google Drive. Co-location. No.
Which of the following is a primary characteristic of a private hosted cloud delivery model?
A private hosted cloud delivery model is shared cost would be like a community thing. Like multiple hospitals all have the same cloud and they all share the cost. So which of the following is a primary characteristic of a private hosted cloud delivery model? Exclusive and secure? Because it's definitely not going to be multi-tenanted. Utilization benefits? Maybe. Only because I can't really rationalize why it's wrong. Yep, there we go.
A cloud implementation for a growing business requires additional processing power. How will an engineer provide additional resources in real time?
Implementing elasticity. Elasticity means that the business that whatever's happening is growing or shrinking rapidly. It's either growing and getting really big, or maybe it's really big one week and then the next week it's really, really small. So it's going to be able to grow and adapt with the business. Yes.
A network administrator is researching network virtualization and is trying to find a standard architecture for appliances to be developed against. Which of the following should the administrator consider as a standard architecture?
Man, I got that up in a second. All right, I'm pretty sure it's hypervisor. We're going to look this one up too. What do you got to say? What do you got for me, llama? Meh, I'm a llama. My aunt actually has an alpaca farm. Alpacas are kind of like llamas. I don't really know the difference between a llama and alpaca. I think maybe their fur is a little bit thicker. I don't know.
Here's the explanation in your preferred format. Restate the question. What standard architecture should a network administrator consider for network virtualization, allowing appliances to be developed against it? Simplified answer, NFV network function virtualization. Analogy, think of NFV like a set of building blocks for network appliances. Just as building blocks provide a standard framework for constructing different structures, NFV provides a standard architecture for developing network appliances. This allows different vendors to create appliances that are compatible and can be easily integrated into a virtualized network. In-depth explanation. Network Function Virtualization, NFV, is a standard architecture for network virtualization that allows network functions to be virtualized and run on commodity hardware. NFV provides a framework for developing virtualized network appliances, such as firewalls, routers, and switches, that can be easily deployed and managed in a virtualized network. The NFV architecture is designed to be open and extensible, allowing different vendors to develop compatible appliances. This enables network administrators to create a virtualized network that is flexible, scalable, and easy to manage. NFV is a widely adopted standard, supported by many major network vendors and industry organizations. Real-world example or scenario, a company wants to virtualize its network infrastructure to improve flexibility and scalability. The company's network administrator is looking for a standard architecture that will allow them to develop and deploy virtualized network appliances from different vendors. The administrator decides to use NFV as the standard architecture, which enables them to create a virtualized network that is compatible with a wide range of appliances and vendors. This allows the company to take advantage of the benefits of network virtualization, while also ensuring that their network is open and extensible.
Okay, so this makes a little bit of sense because, like, architecture is more or less like the blueprint. It's the foundation. It is what is holding something up. It's the beams of the house, right? And it's how it's built as well. It's not just the beams of the house. It's how the beams are put together. And that architecture forms for a virtual machine. But what is the difference? Maybe hypervisor is the actual virtual machine. What's the difference? Hypervisor and NFV. My fat finger's not gonna spell it. I spelled it too wrong. It's because my pinky, man. I can't use my pinkies when I type. I don't know why. Dang it! I put a space in between. Whatever. Purpose, scope, layer, functionality. Okay. Ooh, wow. This is really telling me what I want to know.
A hypervisor, also known as a virtual machine monitor (VMM), is a piece of software that creates and manages virtual machines (VMs). A hypervisor sits between the physical hardware and the VMS, allocating resources such as CPU, memory, and storage to each VM. Hypervisors are used to virtualize servers, desktops, and other devices, allowing multiple VMs to run on.
It never ceases to astonish me the amount of layers that are in between things. Like, we can't just have the architecture and then it's a virtual machine. We need another in between. We need another thing that's in between it. Like, in my mind, it's like, why? Why can't we just do this? But also, I understand why. So this hypervisor is the wait, hold on. The hypervisor, also known as a virtual machine. So the virtual machine is a hypervisor. Do I have that correct before I go on this huge tangent? Is a VM a hypervisor. No, no, a virtual machine is not a hypervisor. They are two distinct but relatable components in virtual machining. Here is a breakdown. Virtual machine. A virtual machine is a software-based emulation. Okay, I have an emulator. I can do that. I know what that means. Of a physical computer. It runs an operating system and application just like a physical machine would, but it exists as a file on a physical server. Okay, so like my emulator that I have, which is somewhere, I emulate the Capcom, Sega, not Nintendo, PS1. Like okay, that makes sense. And all those are just basically emulations. Those are all virtual machines of those consoles. Okay. A hypervisor, also known as a virtual machine motor, or VMM, is the software layer that enables the creation and management of a VM and a single physical server. So this would be like RetroArch. RetroArch would be the VMM, right? Oh, you're welcome, man. I'm doing my best. Thanks for being here, D Smith. Okay. So the hypervisor to me, okay, let's ask that. So and the only reason I'm not using my other AI is because it is set up for like that format, and Llama 3, although it's really good, can't really handle variation. So the hypervisor is like RetroArch, and the VM is the PS1 that I am emulating, question mark. Yeah, Gemini's really not the best one. No, the analogy isn't quite right. Okay, well, give me an analogy that makes sense. Talk to me.
While both a hypervisor and an emulator share the goal of running software designed for a different environment, the way they achieve it differs significantly. Here's why the comparison isn't perfect. RetroArch Emulator Frontend. RetroArch is an emulator frontend. It provides a user interface to manage various emulator cores, which themselves emulate different consoles, like the PlayStation 1. The emulator cores within RetroArch simulate the original console's hardware, translating its instructions into instructions that the host system can understand. This involves translating every instruction, which can be computationally intensive. Hypervisor. A hypervisor, on the other hand, virtualizes the hardware. Instead of emulating the entire system like an emulator does, a hypervisor creates virtual versions of the hardware components, CPU, memory, storage, and presents them to the virtual machine. In many cases, with the help of hardware-assisted virtualization built into modern CPUs, the VM can directly execute most instructions on the host CPU without the hypervisor needing to translate every instruction. Think of it this way. Emulator. Like RetroArch with a PS1 core, imagine you have a manual for a classic car, the original system. To make it drive like the classic car, you build a replica, mimicking every detail and quirk, then drive that replica. Hypervisor. Imagine you have a modern car, the host system. You want to experience driving a classic car, so you install a virtual cockpit that makes the modern car feel and respond like the classic car, leveraging the modern car's engine to do most of the actual driving. You are not building a replica of the classic car's engine. You are utilizing the modern car's engine, but mediating its interactions with the driver, the VM.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie, this is a hard concept. I don't know why I'm struggling with this so much, but you know what? I also struggle with the concept of blockchain and like how some of those crypto things like layer 1 and 2 work.
A hypervisor, also known as a virtual machine monitor, VMM, is a piece of software that creates and manages virtual machines, VMs. A hypervisor sits between the physical hardware and the VMS, allocating resources such as CPU, memory, and storage to each VM. Hypervisors are used to virtualize servers, desktops, and other devices. allowing multiple VMs to run on a single physical host. NFV network function virtualization. NFV is a network architecture that virtualizes network functions, such as firewalls, routers, and switches, and runs them on commodity hardware. NFV allows network functions to be implemented in software, rather than relying on dedicated hardware. This enables network administrators to create virtualized networks that are flexible, scalable, and easy to manage. Key differences.
Yes.
Purpose. Hypervisors are designed to virtualize servers and desktops, while NFV is designed to virtualize network functions. Scope. Hypervisors focus on virtualizing individual devices, while NFV focuses on virtualizing entire networks. Layer. Hypervisors operate at the server or device level, while NFV operates at the network level. Functions. Hypervisors manage VMs, while NFV manages virtualized network functions, VNFs such as firewalls, routers, and switches. Hardware. Hypervisors can run on a variety of hardware platforms, while NFV typically requires specialized hardware, such as network interface cards, NICs, and switches. Relationship between hypervisor and NFV. In some cases, NFV may use hypervisors to create virtual machines that run virtualized network functions. For example, a hypervisor might be used to create a VM that runs a virtualized router or firewall. In this scenario, the hypervisor is used to manage the VM, while NFV is used to manage the virtualized network function. However, not all NFV implementations use hypervisors. Some NFV solutions use containerization or other virtualization technologies to deploy virtualized network functions. In summary, while hypervisors and NFV are both virtualization technologies, they serve different purposes and operate at different layers. Hypervisors focus on virtualizing devices, while NFV focuses on virtualizing network functions.
Okay, so one is a function, one is devices. Hypervisors, the virtualization of devices. NFV focuses on virtualization network functions. Let's see if you can give us a cool analogy, and then we'll go back to it. Here's an analogy that might help illustrate the difference. Okay, hotel manager, city planner. Okay.
Hypervisor, a hotel manager. Imagine a hotel with many rooms, each representing a virtual machine, VM. The hotel manager hypervisor is responsible for allocating rooms resources to guests' VMS, ensuring each room has the necessary amenities, CPU, memory, storage, and managing the hotel's overall operations. The hotel manager doesn't care what the guests do in their rooms, as long as they follow the hotel's rules and pay their bills. The manager's primary concern is managing the hotel's infrastructure and resources. NFV, a city planner. Now imagine a city with many buildings, roads, and services network functions. The city planner, NFV, is responsible for designing and managing the city's infrastructure, ensuring that all buildings' network functions are connected and working together efficiently. The city planner cares about the overall layout of the city, how buildings interact with each other, and how services are delivered to citizens' users. They might decide to build new roads, network paths, construct new buildings' network functions, or optimize traffic flow, network traffic management. Key differences. The hotel manager hypervisor focuses on individual rooms, VMS, while the city planner, NFV, focuses on the entire city network. The hotel manager is concerned with allocating resources to individual guests, VMS, while the city planner is concerned with designing and managing the overall infrastructure to support many buildings' network functions and services. This analogy highlights the different scopes and focuses of hypervisors and NFV. Hypervisors manage individual VMs, while NFV manages entire networks and network functions.
See, and this is that makes a lot of sense. I know I spent a lot of time on that, but this is how you learn. I use the 80-20 principle when I'm trying to like teach myself something, because like the 80-20 principle says that 80% of what you need to know comes from 20% of the material. So then it's like, well, then what's the other 80% for? You know what I'm saying? So what I do is I go through a deep dive and I just start, I'm curious. I have questions. Like I want to make sure that I have it 100% crystal clear in my mind. And that requires me to go down like a rabbit hole to try to figure out what's going on. And what happens is by answering all of these questions that aren't necessarily 100% relevant, but they are still connected in some way, it gives me a much stronger foundation of understanding of what's going on. So then if I go back and read this question again.
A network administrator is researching network virtualization and is trying to find a standard architecture for appliances to be developed against. Which of the following should the administrator consider as a standard architecture?
Now this makes so much sense why it is NFV, because it's the architecture, and not just that I have this keyword of telling me that that's the answer, because architecture. I now have a deeper understanding of what hypervisor is. So that way, if I get a question that's not just about NFV, but if I get a question about hypervisor, I already know what it is. This is a virtual switch. Now I know that this is the architecture, and in the architecture is going to be the hypervisor. In the hypervisor is going to be a virtual switch. It's just this rabbit hole, and I understand all that now. You know, I do not know what that is. We'll come back to that. We'll circle back around for that one.
Cloud offerings such as Amazon's Elastic Compute Cloud and Microsoft's Azure Virtual Machines are examples of what type of service?
So this is another one that I get confused. Software as a service. It's not virtual. That's a, throw that one out. Okay, that's nothing. Platform as a service or infrastructure as a service. Software as a service, that's like Microsoft Word now. You used to be able to download it, but now you really can't. Google Doc, Google Sheets, things like that. That's a software as a service. Platform as a service and infrastructure as a service are two things that I get confused a lot, because I think that they're both the same thing. Now, that being said, I see virtual machines. I think that is infrastructure as a service. Yes. But I want to know it again. Now, we're not going to go into it as a huge deep dive as it was before, but I do want to know the difference between platform and infrastructure. God, dude, it's just so fast. Yeah, this is really good AI. It's especially if you use the uncensored thing. If you have any, I use it for a lot of because I think it's built off of Llama 3. They probably use this Dolphin 3 or something in order to make it uncensored. But either way, the uncensored version, it doesn't. I mean, yeah, sure, like you could look up like, you know, not safe for work stuff if you wanted to, but that's not really its point. Its point is to be able to look at news throughout any type of bias. So that's what I use it for when I'm trying to look, especially with all the Epstein stuff going on. Like, it's really hard to figure out things. I've been using this because it uses it's kind of like a Perplexity, where it pulls sources, and I can either read its synopsis or I can go to the actual source and read it. So I've been using this one for about a week now, and I really enjoy it. And also, it's very cold. It doesn't have any what's the word I'm looking for? Personality into it, which is what I'm looking for when I'm just trying to gain information.
Here's the explanation in your preferred format. Restate the question. What type of service are cloud offerings like Amazon's analogy? Think of infrastructure as a service IaaS like renting a house. Just as you rent a physical house and have control over its contents and layout, IaaS provides you with virtualized computing resources, such as servers and storage, that you can configure and manage as needed. In-depth explanation. Infrastructure as a service IaaS is a cloud computing model that provides users with virtualized computing resources, such as servers, storage, and networking over the internet. IaaS allows users to provision and manage their own infrastructure, including operating systems, applications, and data, without having to worry about the underlying physical infrastructure. This provides users with flexibility, scalability, and cost savings. Cloud offerings like Amazon's Elastic Compute Cloud and Microsoft's Azure Virtual Machines are examples of IaaS, as they provide users with virtualized computing resources that can be configured and managed as needed. Real-world example or scenario. A company wants to deploy a new web application, but doesn't have the necessary infrastructure to support it. Instead of purchasing and configuring physical servers, the company decides to use Amazon's Elastic Compute Cloud EC2 to provision virtual servers and deploy the application. This allows the company to quickly and easily scale up or down as needed, without having to worry about the underlying infrastructure. Note: the other option, Platform as a Service PaaS, provides a complete platform for developing, running, and managing applications, including tools, libraries, and infrastructure. While PaaS is also a cloud computing model, it is not the correct answer in this case, as the question specific. Note: the other option, Platform as a Service PaaS, provides a complete platform for developing, running, and managing applications, including tools, libraries, and infrastructure. While PaaS is also a cloud computing model, it is not the correct answer in this case, as the question specifically mentions virtual machines and compute resources, which are characteristic of IaaS.
Okay. So my question is because it says infrastructure. So if a PaaS can do infrastructure, does that mean that a IaaS, an infrastructure as a service, can be inside a PaaS? Yes, that's correct. Okay. See, my thing is that when it comes to all this technology stuff, it's all a hierarchy. You just have to know how the pyramid is built. That's really what it comes down to. So it is platform as a service, and then inside of that you can get the infrastructure as a service, and then the infrastructure as a service has the software as a service inside of it. Or you can just pick and choose and just grab one that you want. Okay? Let's look here. Okay, think of it like a layered cake. That's literally exactly what I just said.
Think of it like a layered cake. IaaS is the bottom layer, providing the underlying infrastructure, servers, storage, networking. PaaS is the middle layer, providing the platform for developing, running, and managing applications, tools, libraries, frameworks. SaaS software as a service is...
Okay, so I put it in a different order than what I originally said. That's very interesting. Can include IaaS subnet. In fact, many PaaS providers, such as, I don't know what Heroku is, and Google App Engine offer IaaS-like servers as a part of their platform. This means that PaaS can provide a complete platform in developing, running, managing apps.
Is the top layer, providing the actual applications and services, for example, email, CRM, productivity software.
Okay, so the reason the infrastructure as a service is the bottom layer, the foundation, is because it's the server storage and networking. Okay, and then the PaaS is the library, it's the framework. That's where the virtual machines are, and you're able to create apps and things like that. Because how would you be able to create this stuff if you didn't have somewhere to store it? And then the apps and things that the PaaS create is the software as a service. Okay.
In this sense, IaaS can be a component of PaaS, providing the underlying infrastructure for the platform.
Both IaaS and PaaS offering GCP computing engines as an IaaS service that provides virtual machines and storage, while the GCP apps engine is a PaaS that is Google Cloud Platform. Oh, it says it right there. Okay, took me a second. Engine of the PaaS provides a complete platform providing running and managing applications. In this case, the IaaS computing engine can be used as a component of the... Okay, so it can interchange into things, but I think we understand it a lot better. So we go back here, we're talking about Azure virtual machines, which is a big thing. So we're talking about infrastructure. Because Azure is storage and network, and virtual machines. Why does virtual machines fall into IaaS? Why does that not fall into platform? Oh, because virtual machines can be virtual servers, virtual storage, and virtual networking. Okay, understood. Let's move on, boys.
A medium-sized enterprise has recently expanded its operations, resulting in a significant increase in the number of employees. The company's network now includes over 200 devices that require internet access. The enterprise has been allocated a small pool of public IP addresses by their internet service provider, ISP. The network administrator needs to configure a NAT solution that allows all devices to access the internet without assigning a specific public IP address to each device. Which type of NAT should the network administrator implement to meet these requirements?
Now, this is a dirty question. We've talked about it before, and I've studied it before, and we've gone over it. ChatbotGPT even thought the answer that I thought was correct, and then told me that the answer that CompTIA said that was correct was basically like, nah, bro, that's not correct. Okay? So here's the thing. The correct answer in the modern world is this one. Now, I want you to know that this review, this test that I have from CompTIA is only a year old. So like fathom that for a second. Okay? So the normal version is a PAT. PAT is a form of a NAT. What NAT does is that your service provider has a IP address, a public IP address, and it gives it to your house. Your house has one public IP address and then needs to turn it into multiple private IP addresses for all the devices that are inside your house, aka your home network. Okay? Those devices that are on the private home network, they need access to the WAN, the World Wide Web. So the only way they're going to do that is through this one public IP address. But there's an issue. How is it going to assign this public IP address to all of these different things? There's multiple answers to this. So you can have a static NAT, meaning that you have a big pool of public IP addresses, and the NAT is what assigns the public IP addresses to all the individual devices or nodes that are in the home network. This is extremely inefficient. Okay, you can have a port forwarding where the NAT forms a port for every single node, and then when it's trying to do traffic, it uses those ports. Okay, it can do a dynamic NAT where it has a small pool of public IP addresses. Those small pool of public IP addresses are shared throughout it. So let's say that there's 5 public IPs, but there's 100 devices. Whatever device is trying to access the internet is going to be assigned a public IP. And then as soon as it doesn't need the public internet anymore, it's not going to have a public IP address. This is the ideal scenario for an office that primarily uses its internal networks, and it doesn't really need access to the World Wide Web. However, that's not really the case nowadays in the world. A PAT is port address translation, where it doesn't just do port forwarding, where it actually assigns a port and a private IP address to each node that is on the network. It works with the DHCP server as a middleman. It basically translates the private IP addresses that the DHCP server assigns to all the nodes, and then it connects it to a port. So that way, think of it like a tree. You have all these private IP addresses that are here, and then that are coming from the DHCP server. And then you have the PAT, which is connecting it to different port numbers. And then that translates it all and talks to the one public IP address. And that's how your home network works. So this is the correct modern solution. However, in this question of what it's talking about, the company's network now includes over 200 devices. It's wanting the dynamic. The reason it's wanting its dynamic is because as a result of significant increase of employees, it's moved really, really fast, and it's gotten really, really big. And for something, I know I just said really, really big, but for a company as small as 200 devices, you think that's a lot of devices. It's not a lot of devices, okay? When you consider that every person in a company is going to have at least like 2 to 4 devices, like printer, laptop, desktop, maybe a company phone. Like that's not a lot of people, you know. Not all those devices need access to the World Wide Web, and since they don't all, like the printer doesn't need access to World Wide Web, it might need access to the WAN in order to function because of its programming or whatever, but it doesn't need it, right? It just needs a private IP address. So dynamic NAT is the most correct answer.
An organization looks to implement a solution where remote workers can access both cloud-based resources and on-premise data. Some users will use company-issued laptops, while others will use personally owned desktop computers. Which of the following will best meet the IT department's requirements?
A virtual private network. See, this is why I say I struggle with what a VPN is and how it works, is because VPN was already something that was in the workforce. It was already in things that were in companies to do things like this. And then it became commercialized. And now I have ExpressVPN on my phone. So I have a hard time understanding, because the whole point of a VPN in terms of a network is to create a tunnel so that way you can access the internal networking um, of the company. So that way I could be a remote worker or a cloud-based worker. I could be literally anywhere and still have access to the company's stuff, but the company is protected because I'm not accessing it through the World Wide Web or through the WAN. And you start saying WAN. I'm going through the VPN. And I think that is correct. How that works, I'm not entirely certain. And then how that translates to how ExpressVPN works now is also a really big question that I have. But we're gonna go into that like later, not now. We have bigger fish to fry.
IT engineers from partner organizations are planning a cloud infrastructure. After considering the available delivery models, the engineers decide to migrate and use a community model. Which of the following best is a primary characteristic of a community model?
Shared cost. Like I said before, shared cost of a community model when it comes to clouds is like a whole bunch of hospitals that are all subscribed to the same cloud, and they all have access to it, although it is kind of broken up in individual, and then they share cost with it. Okay, let's see if our extended knowledge of PAS and then IAS is worth
IT
it.
implements Google Suite for Business at a large firm. This implementation invalidates the need to install any local applications. Considering the implementation, which type of cloud service does IT deploy?
Okay, so if this implication invalidates the need to install any type of application, that is going to be software as a service, because it is implying, and I don't know the answer. I'm totally just reasoning with it right now. Install any local applications. Install any local software. We don't need that. We have Google Doc now. Okay, good.
A company uses several Windows servers for Active Directory, SQL Server, Radius, DHCP, and DNS. Management pushes to move to the cloud. IT suggests moving services in a staggered fashion as to not cause disruption. IT moves SQL Server instances to the cloud as a start. Which of the following cloud service types is IT most likely using?
Okay, so I've gotten this question a whole bunch, and I always get it wrong. I believe it is infrastructure as a service because we have Radius, we have DHCP, we have DNS, we have servers. So that's infrastructure as a service. However, what tricks you is that IT suggests moving services in a staggered fashion as to not disrupt. That makes you think that it's some type of hybrid, that they're only doing a little bit at a time. But what really is going on is that the company uses several Windows servers. They're pushing for the cloud, and they're already using all of these other services. So what they're doing is that they're moving one service at a time, not as a hybrid, but as they're doing the infrastructure as a service first. Then they're going to do the platform as a service, and then they're going to do the software as a service. Dang, dude. So why in the so you're telling me that is going to be platform as a service? How is that possible when it's talking about an SQL server? Okay, llama. Llama. Okay. Follow-up question. Why is it PAS and not IAAS when the question is asking for, is talking about a server and DHCP? Is that not okay? I'm gonna let my cat in. He's being good. I would say that IT is most likely using. So it's saying it's the same thing. Interesting. So my whole reasoning behind all this was correct. So why is CompTIA saying that it's PAS? Or is it going to say that it's a hybrid? What's it got to say about this?
I would say that IT is most likely using IaaS, infrastructure as a service. Reasoning. The question states that the company is moving its SQL Server instances to the cloud. This implies that they are moving their existing infrastructure servers to a cloud-based infrastructure. IaaS provides virtualized computing resources, such as servers, storage, and networking over the internet. This allows the company to provision and manage their own infrastructure, including operating systems, applications, and data, without having to worry about the underlying physical infrastructure. Why not PaaS? PaaS, Platform as a Service, provides a complete platform for developing, running, and managing applications, including tools, libraries, and infrastructure. While
Okay, so I
PaaS
was
can
right.
include IaaS like services, it is more focused on providing a platform for application development and deployment. In this scenario, the company is moving its existing SQL Server instances to the cloud, which suggests that they are looking for a more traditional infrastructure setup rather than a platform for application development. Why not SaaS? SaaS, software as a service, provides software applications over the internet, eliminating the need for local installation and maintenance. While SaaS can include database services such as SQL Server, it is not a good fit for this scenario.
No way. While SaaS can include a database service such as SQL Server, I guarantee you it's going to say that the answer is SaaS. I don't think that CompTIA does a really good job of explaining what the platform, infrastructure, and software as a service is. I feel like they like a lot of CompTIA's questions are really good, and I really like. I would say like 95% of their questions are like bomb, like just really good. They don't do a good job of this one.
As the company is moving its existing SQL Server instances to the cloud, rather than adopting a new software application.
Okay, so while this does include the service, it is not a good fit for the scenario, as the company is moving its existing SQL servers instance to the cloud rather than adopting a new software application.
You'd like me to help you review your CompTIA now?
Okay, so why not hybrid? Hybrid cloud refers to cloud computing environment that combines on-premise infrastructure with cloud-based infrastructure. While the company can be using a hybrid cloud approach in the long term, the question specifically states that they are moving their SQL server to the cloud, which suggests that it is traditional IaaS setup. You are correct that the question mentions this DHCP, which is typically associated with IaaS. However, the reason why PaaS is sometimes mentioned in these scenarios is that some PaaS providers, such as Azure and Google Cloud Platform, offer IaaS-like services. This is why it's confusing. Services as a part of their platform. This can make it difficult to distinguish between IaaS and PaaS. This is also the same reason why it's hard to distinguish between a router and a switch and a modem and a DHCP server, because it's all just thrown into one giant conglomerate pile of... Yeah. Okay, in this case, the question specifically mentions moving the SQL Server instances to the cloud, which suggests more of a traditional IaaS, infrastructure as a service setup. However, if the company were to use a PaaS provider such as Azure, which it does not specify, right? Oh, you dirty. A company is using several Windows servers. Is it trying to imply that it's using Azure because Azure's Windows to host the SQL Server instance? It could be argued that they are using a PaaS. Okay, we're going to read this real quick because it's going to clarify.
To clarify, IaaS typically provides virtualized computing resources, servers, storage, networking control over operating systems, applications, and data traditional infrastructure setup. PaaS typically provides A complete platform for developing, running, and managing applications tools, libraries, and infrastructure for application development, less control over underlying infrastructure.
So, infrastructure as a service is virtualization, computing, servers, storage, networking, control over operating systems, applications, and data, traditional infrastructure setup. Makes sense. Okay. This is like how an IT group would push out updates en masse or something like that. That's what I would imagine. Okay. The platform as a service is typically a platform for developing, running, and managing applications. So managing internal applications, creating an application and then pushing it out, tools, libraries, and infrastructure for application development. And this is the confusing part. It's using the word infrastructure in a different context. Infrastructure for application development, not infrastructure in terms of servers, storage, and networking. Infrastructure for creating. So basically, you can create your applications here. I would almost want to say the word architecture, but that would probably be bad too. Less control over underlying things. Let's see what this bad boy says it is. It's going to do it in the next question.
Management at an online retailer meets to discuss delivery options for an online shopping experience. IT proposes using a method of offloading a percentage of transactions to the cloud during peak shopping seasons. Which delivery model is IT suggesting as a solution?
A hybrid, because some of it's on site, some of it's not on site. Let's learn. Yep, it's saying that it's a PAS. What does CompTIA have to say? What do you got? Defend yourself.
Platform as a service PaaS is a computing method that uses the cloud to provide any platform type services. A CQL database is an example of PaaS.
What TTS tool is that? What is TTS? TTS text. Oh, text to speech. Oh, Speechify. Can I open it up right here? Yeah, here it is. It's really, really cheap. I think it's only like $100 for the year or something like that. I can't remember what it is. It is amazing. I'm not sponsored by them or anything, obviously, but I 100% recommend using it. One, it's a plugin that you can use on Opera GX or on Google. I'm sure you could use it on other platforms as well. You can change it to all these different people. There is a free version you can do, but it uses a robot voice, not like an actual person voice. I have all these like voice actors that I can choose from, and I can download more of them. But I can also go to its actual webpage, and I can upload a PDF, and I can have it either read the PDF or I can have it search the PDF for me. It's really, really good. They do have very small video making things where like it can make like a narrator kind of thing. A blessing for the assisted work studying. Yes, it absolutely is. To me, it is a necessity for this stuff. When I was taking my A+, I put the A+, I bought the textbook, which was a PDF, and I put it in here. And while I was working out, I would just have it read me the chapter. And it was so good, because then I would come back and what I do to min-max it is if I'm trying to read something, I'll have it read it to me, sometimes at 1.5, 1.7x, and I'll follow along. And it actually makes me read faster, and I feel like I'm retaining the information stronger because I'm reading it and I'm hearing it at the same exact time. Like, I don't know about you, but I don't have a lot of time to study, so I need to retain the information as fast as humanly possible. So yeah, Speechify, it's a yearly subscription. It's not bad at all, and there's a lot of other features that I don't necessarily use because I haven't really expanded on it, but for what I use it for, 100% is amazing. Yeah, and it integrates a lot with a lot of apps as well. So good question. Platform as a service. Okay. So SQL database is an example of a PAS. So then why the hell did it explain or go into depth about any of this? Like, I'll sub on both accounts. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate you. I don't understand. SQL server. I mean, I understand, but I don't understand why it's so effed up. Because if that is a thing, it's probably not an isolated incident. It's probably going to be, there's probably other instances where things like that happen. But this question is just, it's a crooked question. Same question. Was that 2 or 3? I guess I'll know in a second. Yeah, that was 3. All right, 4.
Which delivery method and protocol may send data out of order and over different paths? Select 2.
Okay, easy. That's going to be UDP. UDP is like how video streaming works, video calls work, just streaming like how I'm streaming right now, phone calls, all that stuff is UDP. Basically what it's doing is it has all these packets, it has all these not encapsulation, but all these packets. It's just like throwing them out. It doesn't care, it doesn't check, it's just going. And if there's like a moment of packet loss, it doesn't care because it's live, it's never stopping. So then what happens is that that packet that was damaged, broken, or missing just is gone. And it only lasts a second. Now what can happen is that if packets are continuously lost, then that's where things can crash. So that means that it's going to be connectionless. Did it. Okay. TCP is where before it sends the packet, it's going to double check to make sure that it's in the right order. It's not missing anything. There's nothing wrong with it. Okay. And TCP is going to be connection oriented. Yeah, let's go.
A network administrator sets up a policy that secures the authentication mechanism that a host must be able to match at least one matching security method for a connection to be established. What is this called?
Okay, I get this one wrong all the time. It's not authentication header. Authentication header is how this works. Authentication header gets put onto the encapsulation. It gets tacked onto the front of the packet. So I think it's encapsulation security payload. Here's why I think that. Because I know that this authentication header is how this works, and it gets encapsulated on the header in the security payload. So we're gonna check it out. Ooh, I was wrong. Let's do a quick little thing right here. So then was it internal protocol security? IPsec? Oh, it was IPsec. See, this is the difference between Llama 3 and Chatbot GPT-4. Chatbot GPT-4 would have kept my five person like layout, the restating the question, like whatever. It would have kept that, and it wouldn't have messed with it until it broke. It would eventually broke, but it would have kept it for a while. I broke the pattern, and then now it doesn't remember that was my 5-thing format. So now it's giving me all these things. However, I'm not necessarily upset about it because I do want to know why it's not these things, because that's actually what I was struggling with. We'll fix it in a little bit because I definitely do want the analogy. The analogy part
Internet
is
Protocol
really
Security IPsec explanation. The scenario describes a policy that requires a host to match at least one security method for a connection to be established. This is a characteristic of Internet Protocol Security, IPsec, which is a suite of protocols used to secure IP communications. Why IPsec? IPsec is a framework that provides security for IP communications by encrypting and authenticating each packet. It allows administrators to set up policies that define the security requirements for a connection, including the authentication mechanisms that must be used. In this scenario, the policy requires the host to match at least one security method, which is a common configuration in IPsec. Why not ESP? Encapsulating Security Payload, ESP, is a protocol used in IPsec to provide confidentiality and integrity.
Okay, that's what it is. So ESP is inside of IPsec. And this is used in IPsec as well. Okay.
Protection for IP packets. While ESP is an important component of IPsec, it is not the correct answer in this scenario, as it refers to a specific protocol rather than the overall policy framework. Why not TLS? Transport Layer Security TLS is a protocol used to secure communications at the transport layer, layer 4 of the OSI model. While TLS is commonly used to secure web traffic and other applications, it is not the correct answer in this scenario, as it is not directly related to IP security policies. Why not Authentication Header, is a protocol used in IPsec to provide authentication and integrity protection for IP packets. While is an important component of IPsec, it is not the correct answer in this scenario, as it refers to a specific protocol rather than the overall policy framework. Real-world example. A company wants to secure its IP communications between two sites. The network administrator sets up an IPsec policy that requires hosts to use ESP with AES encryption and with SHA-256 authentication. The policy also specifies that at least one of these security methods must be matched for a connection to be established. This ensures that all IP communications between the two sites are encrypted and authenticated, providing confidentiality and integrity protection.
Okay, so this makes sense why I got it wrong, because is inside of ESP and ESP is inside of IPsec. IPsec. I don't know if they actually calls it that or not, but I want to know how they all three work together, and I want it explained with an analogy. Whoops, hit the wrong button. I love that timer, man. Wow, 5 seconds, 6 seconds, Jesus. Why is this taking so long? Uh-oh, I hope it didn't break. I broke it. It's done. We might need to go somewhere else. Wow, it's never taken this long before. Let's go over here. Okay, we'll just do it in two different things.
Here's an explanation of how IPsec, ESP, and work together, along with an analogy. IPsec, Internet Protocol Security, is a suite of protocols that secures communication over an IP network by authenticating and encrypting each IP packet in a data stream. Okay. It's essentially a framework that defines how to secure IP communications. Within this framework, two key protocols are utilized. Authentication Header provides connectionless integrity, data origin authentication, and protection against replay attacks for the entire IP packet, or specific portions depending on mode. Guarantees that the data hasn't been tampered with and comes from a verified source. Encapsulating Security Payload, ESP, offers encryption for confidentiality, as well as integrity and optional authentication.
Okay, that makes sense. Wow, dude, that's never taken that long before, literally ever. I'd be interested to compare the two. We might listen to both.
How they work together. A PSE can use AH or ESP separately, or even both together for enhanced security, although this increases processing overhead. In practice, ESP is usually preferred because it offers encryption, which lacks. 1. Security Association SA establishment. Before any data is exchanged, a Security Association SA is established between the two communicating systems. This involves negotiating and agreeing upon security protocols, which protocols ESP or both will be used. Algorithms. The specific encryption and authentication algorithms to be used. Keys. The cryptographic keys for encryption and authentication. Mode. Whether to use tunnel mode encrypts authenticates the entire IP packet, or transport mode encrypts authenticates only the payload.
Okay. Just going a little bit further in depth than I was wanting. Where's the analogy part? This is what I really want.
Analogy,
Oh, okay. Okay.
secure mailing service. Imagine you're sending a sensitive document through a special secure mailing service IPsec. Document your actual data IP packet payload.original. Envelope, the standard IP header, containing basic addressing information. Using only authentication and integrity, you write a unique security code on the outside of the envelope header that represents the entire contents.
But it doesn't
and the
encrypt.
sender's identity. Anyone along the route can see the contents, but they can't tamper with it without invalidating the code. If the recipient receives the envelope and the code is invalid, they know it was tampered with or didn't come from you. Using ESP only confidentiality and authentication integrity. You place the document inside a secure locked box, ESP encryption. Then place this box inside a new generic envelope outer IP header in tunnel mode and address it. You might also include a tamper evidence seal and a signature on the box itself, ESP authentication and integrity. Only. The recipient with the correct key can open the box and access the document. The encryption ensures confidentiality, and the optional seal and signature ensure integrity and authenticity.
Okay. So here's how they work together. I bet policy establishes between two endpoints defining the security requirements for the connection. ESP is used to encrypt the payload IP packets, providing confidentiality. Encapsulates the original packet. Uses authentication. Okay, I remember studying this earlier. So this uses authentication and encryption. This just uses authentication. Packet processing, then verification, and then decrypting. The analogy: imagine someone is sending a valuable package. We'll do this. This will be the last analogy, and then we're going to move on.
Imagine sending a valuable package via courier service. IPsec policy. The courier service has a policy that requires all packages to be insured and tracked. ESP encryption. The package is wrapped in a secure tamper-evident bag encryption to protect its contents from prying eyes. Authentication. A special label authentication header is attached to the package with a unique code that verifies the sender's identity and ensures the package hasn't been tampered with during transit. Packet processing. The package is handed over to the courier service, which adds the label and wraps the package in the secure bag. Verification. At the destination, the courier service checks the label to verify the package's authenticity and integrity. If the label is tampered with or doesn't match the expected code, the package is rejected. Decryption. If the verification succeeds, the package is unwrapped and the contents are delivered to the recipient. In this analogy, ESP provides confidentiality by encrypting the package's contents, while provides authentication and integrity by verifying the sender's identity and ensuring the package hasn't been tampered with. IPsec is the overall framework that ensures the package is delivered securely and reliably.
Okay, so we go back to the question. It's talking about a network administrator setting up a policy that secures authentication, that a host must be able to match at least one security method for the connection to be established. What is this called? At first glance, you would think that it is the authentication header. However, because of the other answer choices, it is going to be the Internet Protocol Security, which is going to be IPsec. Okay, because in IPsec is ESP and AH. The transport layer security, that's a throwaway.
A client is attempting to connect to a network, but is unable to successfully connect. They decide to open Wireshark to see if they can troubleshoot, but want to filter based on the DHCP port. What should they filter on?
They should filter on a TCP. I get these wrong all the time. They should filter on a TCP port 80. And I'm going to say TCP over UDP because UDP is going to lose package. And if you're trying to sniff packets, you don't want to be trying to look at things where it's losing. Why 80? I don't know. Yeah, we're gonna circle back on that one because ports I have a hard time with. There's just so many.
The main office is planning for more jobs to become remote in nature. The network team is briefing the Chief Information Security Officer (CISO) on the use of VPN software and the protocols used for point to multipoint connections. Which protocols should the team discuss with the CISO? Select 2.
Not NFV, because that was for like virtual machines and stuff. Actually, no, that wasn't NFV. Not a virtual NIC. MGRE and NFV? Okay.
A global company is deploying a new web application that requires high availability and low latency for users worldwide. The company plans to host the application on several servers located in different geographic regions. To ensure users are automatically directed to the nearest server for the fastest response times, which IP addressing scheme should the company implement to best meet their requirements?
So, unicast means that you're casting to one person. Multicast means that you're casting to everybody. What's the difference between multicast and broadcast? Broadcast is that you're sending it to everyone, regardless. Multicast means that you're casting to multiple people, but it's selective. Anycast, I think it's multicast. It's got to be multicast. No. Okay, I'm not doing so hot, boys.
Which port does a domain name server DNS use for record transfers over 512 bytes?
See, these port questions, man. I can't do them. I don't know. I get confused. Port 53? Like, how am I just supposed to memorize these ports? Like, the only reason I click this is because TCP sounds correct when you're dealing with a DNS server. Okay, okay. Saying DNS server is stupid. That's like saying that's domain name server. So it's just DNS. When dealing with the DNS, it makes sense that you don't want to lose packets. But the only reason I picked it because at 53 is because it looked familiar, not because I know what port 53 is.
What protocol attaches 3 fields to the packet, which includes a header, a trailer, and integrity check value?
It's got to be this one, right? Hey, Hillary. Nice protocol. No, sorry. I've read the chat and then read the thing at the same time. We need a header, a trailer, and integrity check. So that's got to be this, right? But this is the header. Management port? Buddy, I'm getting wrecked. Starting to understand why I made a 59 on the test.
A networked host is sending data to a single host in the same virtual local area network, VLAN.
Unicast.
Which of the following protocols will handle the packets for this transmission?
Single host, unicast. Yes. All right, okay, we already did a huge deep dive into this. We know why this is. We'll read this one and then we'll move on.
Internet Protocol Security (IPsec) can be used to secure IPv4 and/or IPv6 communications on local networks and as a remote access protocol. Each host that is required to use IPsec must be assigned a policy.
Okay. Here, tell me the arbitrary difference between these two effing ports.
Information can be viewed from Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol (DHCP) traffic by filtering on TCP 67 and 68. DHCP dynamically assigns IP addresses to network hosts.
Wait, hold on a second. No. Port 67 and 68 is actually UDP, not TCP. I don't know why I think that. Let's find out. thought there was an E at the end of format. Format? No, I guess not. See, right there, right there. That makes me so mad. Okay.
Restate the question. A client is trying to troubleshoot a network connection issue using Wireshark and wants to filter based on the DHCP port. What port and protocol should they filter on? Simplified answer, UDP 67. Analogy, think of DHCP like a hotel reception desk. Just as a hotel guest needs to check in with the reception desk to get their room key, a device needs to check in with the DHCP server to get its IP address. The reception desk DHCP server listens on a specific port, UDP 67, for incoming requests from guests' devices. In-depth explanation. DHCP Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol is a protocol used to assign IP addresses and other network settings to devices on a network. DHCP servers listen on UDP port 67 for incoming requests from clients. When a client sends a DHCP request, it uses UDP port 68 to communicate with the DHCP server. To filter on DHCP traffic in Wireshark, the client should filter on UDP port 67, which is the port used by DHCP servers to receive incoming requests. Real-world example or scenario, a network administrator is troubleshooting a...
Whoa. So when a client sends a DHCP request, it uses port 68. But if I want to filter this stuff through Wireshark, the client should filter, client meaning the person on Wireshark, should filter on 67, which is where the port used by DHCP servers to receive incoming requests. So the client sends a request on 68, but the DHCP server receives it on 67. That is
real world example or scenario. Do you understand? Venice, 2.08 seconds. Real world example or scenario. A network administrator is troubleshooting a DHCP issue on a network. They open Wireshark on a client device and want to filter on DHCP traffic to see if the client is sending and receiving DHCP requests correctly. They enter the filter UDP.port equal to 67 in Wireshark to capture only DHCP traffic. This allows them to analyze the DHCP packets and troubleshoot the issue.
My brain is broken. What is Google gonna say? Will it tell me why? Use okay for the correct filter. Wireshark based off of UDP 67. So why does CompTIA say 67? Okay. Direct type. Yeah, why? I want to know that. I would imagine that DHCP would want to use TCP. Utilizes UDP for several key reasons, factoring on efficiency, stabilization, and protocol primarily functions on assigning IP addresses, contact lists, communications, meaning it doesn't require connection to be established before data is sent. Oh, that's another thing. UDP doesn't have to have a connection. It's just like, hey, hope you're there. I'm throwing mail there. Hope there's a house. Okay. Oh. So basically it becomes the speed. Low overhead. Why does CompTIA network study guide say that the answer is TCP 67? It's possible that the specific CompTIA study guide you are referring to has an error or discussing a less common, outdated scenario that standard definition of TCP UDP 67 is server for the server and UDP for the client. Okay. Contextual information. If the study guide provides additional context around using TCP, it might describe. It doesn't. It doesn't divide. Doesn't. It doesn't. It doesn't. So, what the hell are these other ports?
Server Message Block SMB provides file print sharing service and operates on TCP 139 and 445. SMB allows a machine to share its files and printers to make them available. Hypertext Transfer Protocol HTTP operates over TCP 80 and enables clients to request resources from HTTP server. The Network Time Protocol NTP enables the synchronization of time-dependent applications. A server or host that is configured with the incorrect time may not be able to access network services. Authentication and other security mechanisms will often fail if the time is not synchronized on both communicating devices. Errors are likely to be generic failed or invalid token messages.
I don't know why it told me about NTP. NTP wasn't even an answer choice. Here's my thing. If this is the question, if this is the answer, TCP 67, but in reality it's actually UDP 67, and it's a typo and it's wrong. What if I'm taking a question and I'm on the test and it's wrong too, and I have both answer choices? Like, I'd be screwed, right? Whatever, man. I was about to say something incredibly inappropriate, but I didn't because I thought better of it. And I have a filter. I have a filter, and it didn't get through. You're welcome. Okay. Let's look at this bad boy, because I need...
Question I, reviewing 3 of 6. A global company is deploying a new web application that requires high availability and low latency for users worldwide. The company plans to host the application on several servers located in different geographic regions. To ensure users are automatically directed to the nearest server for the fastest response times, which IP addressing scheme should the company implement to best meet their requirements?
So it's not unicast. That's easy. Easy, just throw away, right? We don't need to restate the question. The answer is anycast. This is what I want.
Analogy: think of Anycast like a global postal system. When you send a letter, you want it to be delivered to the nearest post office, so it can be forwarded to its final destination quickly. Similarly, Anycast allows users to be automatically directed to the nearest server, reducing latency and improving response times. In-depth explanation: Anycast is an IP addressing scheme that allows multiple servers to share the same IP address. When a user requests access to the web application, the DNS system directs them to the nearest server with the shared IP address. This ensures that users are automatically directed to the nearest server, reducing latency and improving response times. Anycast is commonly used in content delivery networks (CDNs) and cloud computing environments where high availability and low latency are critical. Real-world example or scenario: a global e-commerce company wants to ensure that users worldwide can access their website quickly and reliably. They deploy several servers in different geographic regions, each with the same IP address using Anycast. When a user in Europe requests access to the website, the DNS system directs them to the nearest server in Europe rather than a server in the US or Asia. This reduces latency and improves response times, ensuring a better user experience. Note, the other options are not correct because Multicast is used for one-to-many communication, where a single packet is sent to multiple destinations. Unicast is used for one-to-one communication, where a packet is sent to a single destination. Broadcast is used for one-to-all communication, where a packet is sent to all devices on a network. None of these schemes meet the requirements of directing users to the nearest server for the fastest response times.
Let's look at that. Multicast is when one-to-many communications, when a single packet is sent to multiple destinations. But it's not all of them, it's just multiple of them. It could be 5, it could be 10, it could be 2, as long as it's more than one. Unicast is when it's one-to-one communication. So I guess think like maybe like an email, like I'm sending from me to my mom or something. Okay. Broadcast is one-to-all communications, where a packet is sent to all devices on a network. Note, none of. Okay. So where a packet is sent to all devices on a network. I don't remember why broadcast, what scenario broadcast would be used for. Maybe like an ARP request. Okay. Multicast. Okay, no. They said something up here. When a European requests access to the website for the e-commerce website, the DNS system directs them to the nearest server in Europe rather than a server to US or Asia. This reduces latency and improves response times, ensuring a better experience. Okay, so that's how we have different websites, like how we have Amazon for Japan, or Amazon for UK, or Amazon for US, things like that. Okay, that makes sense to me. I also can see how a VPN can really screw that up. If I have a VPN and I'm in Japan or Europe or Australia or something like that, then it's going to redirect me to those servers, which is why and that's how you're able to access certain things, and how certain things can be region locked as well. It's all kind of coming together. Okay. So then what was the question again?
A global company is deploying a new web application that requires high availability and low latency for users worldwide.
That is it. High availability and low latency worldwide. Those are our keywords.
Question. A global company plans to host the application on several servers located in different geographic regions. To ensure users are automatically directed to the nearest server for the fastest response times, which IP addressing scheme should the company implement to best meet their requirements? What you need to know.
Anycast. That makes total sense. Broadcast is like an ARP request. It just sends it to like literally everybody. Unicast is 1-to-1. Multicast is anything 2 and above. Anycast is to all of them. Or to anyone, not all of them. Okay. Moving on.
Attaches 3 fields to the packet, which includes a header, a trailer, and integrity check value.
Now, we went super in depth. So why in the world is it not this when this is inside of this? Like, why is it not IPsec?
Encapsulating Security Payload (ESP) provides confidentiality and/or authentication and integrity. It can be used to encrypt the packet rather than simply calculating a hash. Internet Protocol Security (IPsec) can be used to secure IPv4 and/or IPv6 communications on local networks and as a remote access protocol. Each host required to use IPsec must be assigned a policy.
You know, we have IPv4 and we have IPv6. You ever wonder, where's IPv5? You ever think about that? You ever wonder about that? I mean, the internet is a byproduct of the CIA. Maybe they kept IPv5, and the only devices that operate on IP addresses version 5 are government ones. So therefore, it's literally next to impossible to sniff those packets, because we operate on 2 different types of internet, 4 and 6. I don't know. Hey, look. I'm just putting things together, asking questions. I don't know. Let's get back to it, I guess. You know, whatever. You know, just think about it. Okay. I don't understand why. So the ESP, encapsulating security protocol, it has a head. Oh, fits is a protocol that attaches 3 fields of packets: header, trailer, and integrity check. Why it's not IPsec?
IPsec, Internet Protocol Security, is a suite of protocols that provides security for IP communication.
Okay, it's a suite of protocols, so it doesn't necessarily have all this stuff. Okay.
Reviewing my practice test. For each IPsec, Internet Protocol Security, is a suite of protocols that provide security for IP communications. While IPsec is the overall framework for securing IP packets, it is not the specific protocol that attaches the three fields to the packet.
Got it.
IPsec is more like an umbrella term that encompasses various protocols, including ESP and authentication header. ESP is the specific protocol that attaches the header, trailer, and ICV to the packet. Real-world example or scenario. A company wants to secure its IP communications between two sites. They use IPsec to establish a secure tunnel between the sites. As part of the IPC configuration, they use ESP to encrypt and authenticate the packets. The ESP protocol attaches the header, trailer, and ICV to each packet, ensuring confidentiality, integrity, and authentication.
Okay, so the encapsulation secure payload is a header, a trailer, and integrity check. Integrity check value. Got it. Next. There we go. Yeah,
The main office is planning for more jobs to become remote in nature. The network team is briefing the Chief Information Security Officer, CISO, on the use of VPN software and the protocols used for point-to-multipoint connections. Which protocols should the team discuss with the CISO? Select two.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie. I only knew what one of these acronyms were. Like in the tech world, dude, like you gotta know all these stupid acronyms, and some of the acronyms they're the same acronym, but they mean different shit.
Multipoint Generic Routing Encapsulation (MGRE) is a version of the Generic Routing Encapsulation (GRE) protocol that supports point-to-multipoint links, such as the Hub and Spoke Dynamic Multipoint Virtual Private Network (VPN). Multi-protocol label switching (MPLS) can operate as an overlay network to configure point-to-point or point-to-multipoint links between nodes regardless of the underlying physical and data link topologies. Network function virtualization (NFV) provisions virtual network appliances, such as switches, routers, and firewalls, via VMs and containers. Within the virtual machine VM, the virtual NIC vNIC will look exactly like an ordinary network adapter and will be configurable in the same way. Additional learning.
Okay, that makes sense. So the MGRE is multiple point generic route encapsulation, and then multiple protocol label switching. MPLS. Let's go on. This is the one that I just kind of
Does a domain name server DNS use for record transfers over 512 bytes?
See, and like I think the reason why I struggle with these so much is that there's not an analogy. There is no analogy for why it uses port 53. Port 53 just does this. That's all there is. There's no analogy for a mailbox. A mailbox takes mail. That's what it does. Or for your address. Like, there is no analogy for your address for your house. It's just the number. Like, that's the number that it was assigned.
A domain name server DNS server that needs to allow large record transfers over 512 bytes will be configured to allow connections over Transmission Control Protocol, TCP, port 53. A DNS server is usually configured to listen for queries on User Datagram Protocol, UDP, port 53. Larger transfers over 512 bytes require use of TCP port 53. Telnet uses TCP port 23 by default. Telnet is terminal emulation software to support a remote connection to another computer. Trivial File Transfer Protocol, TFTP, is a connectionless protocol running over User Datagram port 69.
Okay. And it's because there's so many TCP. It's not like TCP is only on port 53. Like, that would be... I understand what TCP is, and I understand why that would be insane to say that it's only using one port. But it's like... Okay. So, here's how I'm going to rationalize it. This is how I'm going to work on it. TCP port 53 is for DNS that uses 512 bytes. 1 plus 2 is 3. That makes 53. That's why it's port 53. That's how I'm going to remember it. You're more than welcome to use that as well. And, yeah, there you go. You're welcome. That's all yours. Now, I think any DNS usually configure it to listen to a port 53. Okay, so a DNS is usually configured to listen to queries over. Okay, and we talked about this. How the DNS actually knows the DHCP that actually uses UDP 67 to be exact. Okay, but the DNS server. Okay, that's stupid. The DNS server. Got it. Is usually configured to listen for queries in UDP port 53. Okay, so smaller than 512 is UDP 53. Bigger than 512 bytes is TCP 53. Because 5 and then 1 plus 2 is 3. Let's see how we do.
A client is attempting to connect to a network, but is unable to successfully connect. They decide to open Wireshark to see if they can troubleshoot, but want to filter based on the DHCP port. What should they filter on?
They should filter on TCP 6768, which is actually UDP 6768. Oh, this is a tricky one.
A system administrator for ABC Company receives a request for a new account for a new employee. The employee will be using a voice over Internet Protocol VoIP phone. The employee's name is Sam Smith, and the phone number will be 12345678890. The company's domain is oddabccompany.com. Which of the following would be Session Initiation Protocol, SIP Uniform Resource Indicators, URIS, that the administrator would create for the new employee? Select 2.
So it's definitely going to be this. Now the question is, which one of these is it going to be? I think it's going to be this. And the reason why I think it's going to be that is because I feel like we need the URL. We need the domain name in it. This is like, because this phone number is like the name, like if I named a printer. I could also make an argument for this as well. That this is the name, and then they gave it its own domain name. That's what it was then. Okay, we'll circle back on it.
A router downloads configuration files over User Datagram Protocol UDP port 69. The router does not have access to browse the directory or to delete files. Which of the following FTPs, file transfer protocols, is the router using?
Oh, he does not have access to browse the directory or delete. I'm going to say secure file transfer protocol. File transfer protocol over secure socket. Could also be secure sockets because I don't fully understand secure sockets, so I can't officially rule that out. The only one I can actively roll out as active is the active file transfer protocol. Trivial route does not have access to browse. So he doesn't have access to browse. I think it'd be trivial. You know what? I'm going to change it to trivial. Let's go. The reason I changed it to trivial is because the question didn't sound like it was trying to be secure. The question was sounding like it was limiting access to something, which is technically being secure. So trivial makes me think that because when something's trivial, it's like it's basic, it's easy, anybody can understand. Like it's not a big deal. It's super low stress, not a lot of mental power. And we took away all the mental power by not having access to browse the directory or the deleting of the files, meaning that you're only going to pull up this one thing. Oh, good. We got ports.
Which of the following ports would a technician need to open on a firewall to allow SSH on the default port?
Okay. Now, I know that port 23 is Telnet. I don't know what port 21 and port 20 are. But I know for a fact that port 23 is Telnet. Because last time I was studying this, I made a big rationale about why port 23 was SSH, because Telnet came before SSH, and or at least I thought it did, or I think it does. And Telnet is obsolete and bad, and SSH is the new good because it encrypts because it encrypts. So so I thought it was going to be 23 and 22 was going to be Telnet because that made logical sense. Telnet came first, then SSH. I was wrong. SSH was 22 and Telnet was 23. That's how I know it's 22. I don't know what 21 and 20 are.
Which of the following protocols excludes the IP header when calculating ICV?
Ooh. I think it's ESP. Yeah, because that's why you need the ah. Aha. That's why you need the ah.
A network administrator sets up a policy that secures the authentication mechanism that a host must be able to match at least one matching security method for a connection to be established. What is this called?
Okay, we went way in depth with this. The Internet Protocol Security, because this is a plethora of things that are inside of it. The things that are inside of it can be authentication header or the encapsulation security payload. The difference between these two is that this just authenticates but does not encrypt. This encrypts and authenticates. So if you combine them together, it makes a really powerful security thing. Transport layer security, don't know what that is. Get it out of here.
A cybersecurity specialist is gathering data about the corporate network and realizes that the email server is using port 143 and getting intercepted at random times. The specialist has briefed the CISO of his findings and has suggested swapping to port 993. Which protocol is the specialist recommending?
SSL. See what I'm talking about with these ports, man? Like, there's so many. There's so many ports. How in the world am I supposed to memorize all these? Security specialist is gathering data about the corporate network and realizing that the email. Okay, I'm going to say IMAP because I'm pretty sure that POP3 is legacy. Yes. Okay, we're gonna do this really quick because I want to double check that POP3 is legacy. Because it used to be back in the day that you had to download all your emails. You weren't able to get it updated in real time unless you were like on a computer, and even then it still didn't necessarily do it. That's why like Microsoft Mail failed, because I don't think they ever updated it from POP3. So like if you wanted to read your email on your computer using their email application, you had to physically download all of the emails first, which then took space on your computer. POP3 is another protocol for mail retrieval, but it is typically used for port 110, while POP3 over SSL is secure version. POP3 protocol is not a protocol. Okay. I understand all this. I want to know is there it goes. Yes, POP3 protocol generally considered legacy or older email protocol, especially when compared to IMAP. This is why there was an update that happened, man, I don't know, It must have been like 5, maybe 7 years ago, because it was around the iPhone 6, iPhone 8, somewhere around that generation. There was a huge update that iPhone did, and it officially transferred from POP3 to IMAP. And it was so stupid. They updated the phone to be able to do IMAP, but you had to physically go into your application settings of the Mail app, and you had to change it yourself, which I thought was really strange for Apple, because Apple is all about like the user and not having to think, and your stuff is just supposed to work. But I'm sure it was a way to get people in the store so that way they could upsell them to the next iPhone.
A network engineer is troubleshooting interconnectivity between IPv4 hosts and IPv6 hosts. During the troubleshooting, the engineer discovers that there is a need for a layer 3 tunneling protocol that can encapsulate different types of IPv6 and IPv4 packets. What type of encapsulation should the engineer enable on the network?
GRE. General something encapsulation. Let's see here. What is... What's it stand for? What's it stand for? What's it stand for? It's tunneling protocol. Yes, I know this is the answer. Generic routing encapsulation. I was so close. Okay. I can make that make sense because they just changed the domain name. Like if you've ever done anything with like Google Suite or anything like that, you can make as many domain names as you want. Like it's whatever.
Session Initiation Protocol SIP endpoints are the end-user devices, also known as user agents. In this scenario, the Voice over Internet Protocol VoIP is the SIP endpoint. One example of an SIP for this VoIP is sip:/sam.smith at abccompany.com. This is a unique URI that includes the user's name and the company domain. The URI sip:/sam.smith.12345678990 is a unique URI that includes the user's name and the SIP endpoint phone number.
That's what I was having a hard time figuring it out in my head. I couldn't put it in words why this made sense to me. It's because this is the end point. The end point is the phone number. So it's connected the name to the end point. I wonder if that's how all addresses are put together. I bet that makes a lot of sense to me. Tyler.lamond@gmail. So that's my name, and then that's my endpoint, which is Gmail. Okay.
A network administrator sets up a policy that secures the authentication mechanism that a host must be able to match at least one matching security method for connection to be established. What is this called? A client is attempting to connect to a network, but is unable to successfully connect. They decide to open Wireshark to see if they can troubleshoot, but want to filter based on the DHCP port. What should they filter on?
Based off the DHCP port. So then it's going to be TCP, UDP, 67, 68. 67 gives and 68 hears.
Which port does a domain name server DNS use for record transfers over 512 bytes?
1 + 2 = 3, so it's 53. And it's going to be TCP 53, not 23. Oh my god, dude, my dyslexia just really kicked in right now. Oh, buddy, that was... Woo. No! What a... Oh. I meant to click this. You go away. You go over here.
Which protocol uses network-level authentication, NLA, which requires the client to authenticate before a full remote session starts?
Remote desktop protocol. It's not SSH. But why? Why is it not SSH? Which requires the client to authenticate before remote session starts. Because SSH is definitely a remote session. Maybe it's not called a remote session, but that's exactly what you're doing. You're accessing the terminal remotely. Yeah, I don't. Okay. Network error. No. Is everything okay? Is the stream good? Are we good? I think we're okay. It says everything's good. Okay. Is a protocol used for remote access Windows systems? I know that. Network level authentication. Clients authenticate before full remote session. Why it's not SSH? SSH is a protocol for secure remote access to systems, but it does not use network level authentication. So the reason it's not SSH is because SSH just does not use NLA in the same way that an RDP does. SSH uses a different authentication mechanism, such as username and password and public key authentication established to secure connections, while SSH uses a secure protocol. It does not have the same NLA features. Got it. Okay, so it's not SSH because SSH just doesn't use NLA, or doesn't use it at least the same way.
What protocol attaches 3 fields to the packet, which includes a header, a trailer, and integrity check value?
Encapsulation security payload.
Which protocol allows for a protected dialogue between the client and server by assigning the web server a digital certificate issued by a certificate authority?
A hypertext transfer protocol secure. Yep. HTTP used to be the standard, and some things were S. And like, I remember like 10 years ago, it'd be like, hey, this is not a secure site. But it would still push you through. But now almost 90% of all websites are secure.
An international organization is rolling out an essential online platform that necessitates uninterrupted access and reduced delay times for a worldwide audience. The organization aims to distribute the platform across various servers situated in distinct international locations. To make certain that users are automatically connected to the nearest server to minimize latency, which IP addressing scheme should the organization utilize to optimally meet their objectives?
Unicast. So that way, anyone who's trying to access it, it just immediately casts them to the closest server. Felt like I already did this one. Oh, I must have clicked, I didn't know yet. That's the one I clicked, I didn't know yet. I'm gonna have to go here in a second, or in about like 30, 40 minutes. Yeah, that guy definitely quit lessons. All right.
A global company is deploying a new web application that requires high branch locations to the main database located in the headquarters. Which protocols can the administrator use to create this link? Select 2.
Okay, network administrator is creating a plan to connect multiple branch locations. So, multiple general something encapsulation, dang it. And this is also multiple something something systems. Yes. Okay, this one's easy. We already know this. So it needs to be the name and then its endpoint. Name, endpoint. Okay, not too bad. So that was 4. Five.
An organization has asked a junior network technician to retrieve some swappable ports that host a single LC connection per port. Since there are numerous inserts for network devices, which should the technician retrieve?
So QSFP and SFP, those are fiber connections. Technician to receive some swappable ports that host an LC connection. LC is also fiber. So it's one of these two. I'm gonna risk it for the biscuit. I was right. I don't remember what this is. QSFP. When it comes to fiber optics, SFP and QSFP both have transceiver models that facilitate transmitting between network devices, switches, routers. However, they differ significantly in terms of speed, channel, capability, and application. Here's a breakdown. Small form factor, quad small form factor. So utilizes a single channel for data transmit. Then quad suggests feature 4 independent channels. This allows a significant higher rate. So then D application for moderating broadband requests. Perfect for high dense. Maybe because this is so like high, like such high value, I guess. On the other hand, enhanced SFP modules deliver high speed up to 10 gigabytes, better suited for large and more data intensive things, while quad small form factor pluggable retrieve provides the highest quality. So see, in my mind, I always want to go to the highest quality, but I guess in the grand scheme of things, like you're trying to get out, I don't want to say as cheap as you can, but like you don't have to have the highest quality of stuff in order for things to work. In my mind, I'm always trying to future proof. Like, why would I not grab, if it's all fits exactly the same, why would I not grab that one and use that one? I mean, I guess it is technically a waste of resources if it never grows, but whatever.
A cable installer uses snips to cut the cable and strip the insulation to install connectors. What single tool can the installer use to do this when working with multiple types of cable?
A cable stripper. I mean, I feel like that was pretty easy.
A network installer is building a long-distance link. The nodes are approximately 5 kilometers apart. What type of fiber link should the installer build for this link?
Ooh. Oh. Damn. I'm not going to be able to finish. I'm going to have to leave here in a second. I'll have to hop back on later. A network is installer. Man. SX, SR, LX, FX. Five kilometers. We don't care about the speed. We just care about the approximate distance. I have no idea.
An engineer is installing a new connection between 2 database stacks. The engineer is using copper cable and needs a connection speed of 40 GBE with a distance of about 12 feet. Which medium should the engineer utilize for this link?
Not coaxial. That's old. That's like cable internet. We don't use that no more. That's poo-poo. 10 base T, 10 gigabyte base LR. I think it's twin axle. I can't tell you why I know it's twin axle, but I think it's twin axle. How do I know that? Oh, hold on.
Think of twin axial like a high-speed, short-distance sprinter. Just as a sprinter excels at short distances, twin axial excels at providing high-speed connections over short distances, making it ideal for this scenario.
All right. Anyway, this is going to be my last question because I got to go. I have to meet with a student at 10:50, and I need to make sure that everything works for the because I'm having a guest teacher come in to talk to him. So I need to make sure that like everything works and that I'm prepared for the guest. So anyway, this will be the last question, and I'm probably going to jump on at noon, around noon, 12:10, somewhere around there. And we're gonna finish this up. So twin axle is like a high speed short distance sprinter. Okay. A 10XT is a type of Ethernet cable designed for slower speeds for 10 megabytes. See, that's what I thought. Because T was like, that's old. 10 gigabyte base LR is a type of fiber cable. Yeah, LR was the giveaway for fiber. Okay, this makes sense. This will be my last question.
Which of the following 800 and 2.11 standards will provide the fastest wireless network throughput and work in the 5 GHz band only?
Legacy, 5G only. This is Wi-Fi 4, I believe. It's either B or N. I'm going to go with B because that's 5G only. N is like Wi-Fi 6 now. But it doesn't only work in 5G. It still has 2.4. Damn it, I really want to know the answer to that. I really want to know the answer to that.
An IT engineer digs through a closet to find a Wi-Fi router to use.
No, I gotta go. I'll have to figure out that answer later. We'll pick up where we left off, like around 12:10. I'll jump back on. I will stream Donkey Kong Bonanza tonight, so long as my capture card doesn't act up. If my capture card acts up, like, I won't stream. You'll know why. Anyway, if you enjoyed the content, if you joined the stuff, like, subscribe, tell a friend, all that stuff helps out the algorithm, yada, yada, yada. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. I definitely feel like these things are helping me a whole lot. Yeah, and if you want to come back on around 12:10, I'll be back on around that time. All right. If you have any questions, anything like that, drop a comment. And see you later. Makala chico.